Okay, well, I'm with Arlen Meyers. He is the president and CEO of the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs. And we are certainly grateful to finally connect with you, Arlen. I've seen your face, I've seen your posts. You've perhaps seen my face in some of the posts from Healthcare Compliance Solutions. For a couple of years now, right?
Thanks for inviting me. The society's been around officially since January of 2011.
Oh, since 2011. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and you're in just about every forum or every LinkedIn group that I've seen, and and have been a tremendous influencer. And so that's one of the reasons that I initially began to look into what you do, and one of the reasons we thought you'd be a great fit. Well, I wanted just to give our listeners just a kind of an idea of who you are, aside from being a physician, aside from being a president and a CEO of a large organization. And so just wondering, in terms of your background, where are you from?
Sure. I was raised in Philadelphia. I went to school back east and wound up at the University of Colorado at their School of Medicine in 1976. So I've been in Colorado for over 40 years.
Oh, okay.
Basically, I started as a fairly straight-up academic ear, nose, and throat surgeon, went through a fairly traditional career path through the academic ladder, and as part of that was involved in research and development, publishing, building my sort of academic CV, and my interest was in bioengineering, and particularly, although I'm not an engineer, I was just ENT doctors are pretty much gadgeteers.
Okay.
I was interested in gadgets, and so my specific interest was in biophotonics.
Oh.
Interaction of light with human tissue.
Okay.
And that led, to make a very long story short, that led to myself and several others working on a device to optically detect cancer.
Wow.
So that kind of led me down the medical device product development, university spin-out, tech transfer route. And subsequently, that led to various sorts of educational R&D and commercialization initiatives, including the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs.
Okay. Well, that's a great background, and I appreciate it. And we'll dig into that a little bit more. I wanted to find out, too, do you come from a big family, a small family?
Well, I have a sister. I have an older sister. My mom and dad, unfortunately, no longer alive, but my dad was he was a pharmacist by training, and eventually wound up being a pharmacy professor, actually, in Philly at Temple, and then he ran a retail pharmacy store. So I think, well, I don't think, I know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So between my early experience working in his drugstore in early retail and sort of corner store entrepreneurship kind of thing, plus his academic background, I'm sure had a lot to do with where I wound up.
Absolutely. What would you say, do you feel like there's some advice that your father gave you that helped to prompt? I mean, the road you've taken is a road less traveled. There's no question at all. Advice that comes to mind from your dad that's helped you?
I don't think it was so much advice he gave me as just kind of watching and kind of just passively learning what was going on. In other words, the earliest job I can remember was in his drugstore, probably when I was 8 or 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
I don't think the child labor people or OSHA would have liked it.
Yeah.
I was. My job was to. In those days, there were no prefabricated capsules. So the pharmacist would compound what the doctor wrote, like a powder.
Right, okay.
Or an unguent or an ointment or whatever. And if it happened to be a powder, then my job was to pack it into various sized gelatin capsules.
Really?
It came, if you take a capsule and you pull it apart, there's two parts to it.
Okay.
And then there's the stuff inside. Well, in the old days, those gelatin capsules came in different sizes, and they were clear, and there was nothing in them. So my job was to pack the powder into the gelatin capsule, put them back together again, and drop them in a jar.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I got involved in watching what was going on in the front of the drugstore, which was a very small corner drugstore. But it really was it was like a community health center, because in those days, corner drugstores were health resources, and this was a inner city, primarily immigrant neighborhood. Very few of the people spoke English. It was the only telephone within a 4-block radius. So people used it like as a community center, and they'd come in with various health problems.
Right.
You'd hear all these languages and complaints. So I think it gave me an initial understanding of kind of the business of medicine and the business of healthcare, and kind of things went from there.
Okay, so a lot of times I'll ask about best advice, maybe some of the best examples in a person's life, just to understand how that advice or how those examples, those mentors, have been key in scaling your profession. What would you say some of the major challenges have been for you, first as you were becoming a physician, and then second as you've developed the SoPE?
Well, physician entrepreneurship is a relatively new idea. Actually, it isn't. I mean, it goes back since the beginning of medicine, but kind of formally conceptualizing it and packaging it is a relatively new idea. So this issue of
I would agree.
Innovation, entrepreneurship, value creation, pursuit of opportunity, all the kind of stuff that goes around it is a relatively new concept. So I was at getting involved in that and trying to make sense out of it was a challenge, because the message that I was trying to give was pretty much falling on deaf ears. And my view is that most physicians really didn't or don't have an interest in any of this because they didn't have to. In other words, you could go to any medical school pretty much in the United States, graduate last in your class, be called doctor, hang out a shingle, and you could be pretty successful and probably make more money than 99% of the people in the world.
Right.
Well, things have changed, obviously, and because of all of the changes in the environment, everybody, not just doctors, all of the stakeholders have to kind of pick up their game if they're going to thrive, let alone survive. So my view is that people are interested in what we're talking about because they have to.
Okay.
But back in the day, when I was, and then myself and others were trying to get this message out that, the system is not working, that one of the things that's going to drive change is innovation, that every doctor has a good idea, but they don't know what to do with it, that the two main elements of the innovation supply chain in sick care, the patient and the doctor, basically were ignored. But those messages really were falling on deaf ears. So we got a lot of work to do to kind of put the message together and package it. It's still a challenge. So that was, I'd say, the basic challenge. And today, my biggest challenge now is still identifying people in medicine with an entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay, and who are some of these physicians that tend to lean toward more of an entrepreneurial focus?
Well, I don't think that any given specialty has more or less of an entrepreneurial bent. Anybody, I mean, they're represented across medicine.
Okay.
I think I would say that my experience is that about 1 to 2, I work with graduate students, I work with engineers, I work with health professionals, not just doctors.
Okay.
One of my hats is I run a bio-entrepreneurship education program at the University of Colorado.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I work with a lot of people that want to understand and learn more about biomedical technology commercialization.
Okay.
And those people are business, science, engineering, law, health professionals.
I see.
And when you look at those people, very, very few of them actually have an entrepreneurial mindset. And innovation starts with an entrepreneurial mindset. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's how you see the world. It's the lenses that you look through. And if, for example, do you see a problem or an opportunity? Do you get discouraged, or you just see it as a bigger challenge? Do you enjoy the journey and not the destination?
Right.
All those things.
Okay.
And very few people, and are you creative?
Right.
And you don't get accepted to medical school because you're creative. You get accepted to medical school because you're extremely, and I did, because you're extremely good at memorizing a bunch of stuff, and you're very good at taking standardized tests.
Right.
And in fact, when you get into medical school, if you exhibit too much creativity, you get beat up.
Huh.
So it comes as no surprise, in my view, that the people that wind up in medical school, that is doctors, aren't terribly creative. Now, some of that is changing, and it could be argued the opposite, that, gee, there are a lot of clinicians that are very creative in terms of dealing with problems or being creative in the operating room or dealing creative in a different care setting.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that just my observation is that we have a way to go, and we get a mixed message. On the one hand, we're telling people we want you to be innovative. The other hand, we tell them we just don't want you to tell anybody you're doing it.
Right. Would you say that the landscape of entrepreneurship, that there are several platforms of entrepreneurship that support your vision of helping people become physician entrepreneurs? Like, do you feel like the timing has been more appropriate today than it has ever before?
Yes and no. So just to back up a minute, I would say that, first of all, when we have this conversation, it's nice to be on the same page and understand what we're talking about. So when I talk about entrepreneurship, and there's lots of different definitions, but when I talk about entrepreneurship, what I mean is the pursuit of opportunity with scarce resources, the goal of which is to create user-defined value through the deployment of innovation.
I love that.
Biomedical or physician entrepreneurship means doctors or other people are doing this in sick care or in healthcare or in some sort of health profession.
Okay.
You can satisfy that definition in many different roles. You could be an intrapreneur, that is an employed physician. You could be an entrepreneur, that is a technopreneur, you're trying to get an idea or a gadget to market.
Right.
You could be an investor. You could be a small to medium enterprise business owner, like a private practitioner. You could be a social entrepreneur. So there's many, many different roles that you can play as a physician to satisfy that definition. Creation of user-defined value through the deployment of innovation. Now, what I've described is basically every doctor in the world. So the overall market is pretty big. The addressable market is pretty small because very few people have an entrepreneurial mindset to go down this journey.
Right.
Now, I think more and more people are doing it for the reasons that I mentioned. Part of the reason is they're fed up with clinical care. They're fed up with the dysfunctional sick care system. They're fed up with regulation and third-party interference, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
They're fed up with electronic medical records. I mean, just pick your poison.
Sure.
They're fed up with work-life balance, sleep deprivation, and just pick your list.
Sure.
So what they're looking for is, one of the things that's driving interest is alternative career development, non-clinical career development. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because my argument is, as long as you're creating patient-defined value, that's what doctors do. We have this notion that every doctor, the only thing any doctor should do is take care of patients, and the more of them they take care of, the better. I don't really agree with that.
Okay. So how do you educate?
And we run into some issues with that, because then we're picking, it gets to medical education, like, should the only people we train to be doctors be people who say, probably lying in your face when they do the interview, I just want to see patients for the rest of my life?
Right. Well,
my answer would be no. Take the best athlete. If somebody concocts a molecule or a gadget that treats millions of patients and employs hundreds of thousands of people, I would argue they've added as much, if not more, value than someone who sees 40 a day for 40 years.
Good point. So a lot of the mindset of entrepreneurialism is could be associated to influence and impact. Is that fair to say?
The goal of entrepreneurship is to create user-defined value through the deployment of innovation. And there's many different ways to innovate. It's not just about creating a cure for an incurable disease. There are methods, there are processes, there are care delivery innovations, there are business model innovations. There's lots of ways to do it, each of which can create very large value.
So tell us a little bit more about the SoPE, why it was created, how people can learn more about these different, angles of entrepreneurship.
Sure. Well, it was created, like a lot of things, out of personal frustration. I would say it basically was created, in my own case, out of anger and revenge.
Okay.
In other words, I have this saying that, a lot of successful entrepreneurs make it personal, but they don't take it personally.
Huh.
In other words, when you look at why certain people do what they do, I don't care whether it's Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Branson or whatever, there's usually a personal story that trips their trigger. They see something that touches a button and they want to fix it.
Sure.
But when things go wrong, they don't take it personally. If it's business, they kind of learn, things fail, you learn, you get up, you do it again, that kind of thing.
Right.
So in my case, one of my initial commercialization endeavors was to invent this gadget that optically detects cancer. And without going into the gory details, it was a very hard, difficult process.
Imaginably.
And I said to myself, if this is happening to me, it must be happening to a lot of people.
Right.
And this just isn't right. And something needs to be done to fix this. So basically, The idea came out of everybody's got good ideas. They didn't know what to do with them. They didn't understand the pathway to commercialization. So we need to create something to fix that. So we created the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
The mission of which is to help members get their ideas to patients. It's an open global innovation network, and we provide members with education, resources, networks, mentors, and experiential learning through an international chapter network.
Okay.
So if you don't know what to do with your idea, we put you in a sandbox and we let nature take its course.
Okay. So, what are you? Do you have a forum on a website where people interact? They post an idea. How is this society developed?
Right. So the way it works is we have a website. Obviously, it costs $75 a year to join.
Okay.
And we have chapter meetings, and you get to go to the chapter meetings for free. So if you're a member, so you drink more coffee and eat more bagels and donuts with paying in the dues. And you go to the chapter meetings, and you basically connect with people who are like-minded. In other words, they're all interested in getting an idea to a patient. And it's like a dating service. You show up in a room, it's like speed dating. Show up in a room, talk to people, what do you do, one thing leads to another, I'm interested in this.
Uh-huh.
Need an IP attorney, turns out I'm an IP attorney, what can I do to help you?
Huh.
Or I need an SEO person, or I need a marketing person, or I need a product developer, or I need someone to make a prototype, or whatever. So it's just connecting people. So we do that on the website. We do it with a fairly extensive social media network, which you mentioned early on in the interview.
Yep.
And we do it in these meetings. And we also participate in national and international meetings with other organizations that have overlapping missions. So, for example, the National MedTech Association, ACVAMed. Sometimes we go to bio, sometimes we go to bioengineering meetings, sometimes we'll go to specialty society meetings, sometimes we'll work with the American Association for the Advancement of Science. There's lots of different organizations that are working with us to advance biomedical and clinical innovation and entrepreneurship.
Okay. Fascinating. And these chapters are all over the United States, but did you say it was international as well?
Yeah, they're actually all over the world. So our goal, hopefully by the end of this year, will be to have one on every continent.
Wow.
We have, there's a lot in the United States, but we're working on South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, Asia, obviously. I mean, and the point is that what we're talking about is a global problem. The global problem is there is an infinite demand for care and a finite supply. And every country, I don't care whether it's underdeveloped, developing, industrialized, is facing the same problem. How do you optimize finite resources in sick care? And one way to address the problem is through innovation.
So, want to just kind of close up our interview and ask about maybe some of the, what happens, like if you were to give us kind of an inside view into how an organization like this functions on a day-to-day basis. I mean, how do you manage something like this?
Well, first of all, it's a virtual organization.
Okay.
In other words, we have a board of directors who are scattered all over the world. I happen to be located in Denver. We have chapter leaders that manage the chapters locally. We have one or two people that we pay to do bookkeeping and sort of social media and website maintenance and that kind of stuff. We do not own a building. It's a totally voluntary, not-for-profit organization.
Okay.
So, the business model is a lot like Rotary, or some would say the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Where, we have local parishes or local churches, and basically what we're preaching is the gospel of innovation.
Okay, I like that.
and if you buy into that and you believe in it and you want to be a disciple, we're there to help you. So in some respects, that's really what drives the engagement. People are invested in what we're trying to do because they see it as another way to help patients. And they derive a lot of meaning from it. So, and it's fun if you get involved in it. So, and as I said, sometimes they're just tired of seeing, I practiced ear, nose, and throat surgery for 40 years.
Wow.
And now I'm doing something else. So I don't think that what I'm doing now adds any less value to what I was doing then. In fact, I think it's a way for me to leverage my skill set to add more value. So there's a lot of people that see it that way.
Absolutely.
That's what drives the engagement. And I believe we're the largest such organization of its kind in the world.
Wow. And this started in 2000.
Our LinkedIn site has, 27,000 people on it.
Wow.
Facebook, just usual, those. But I would point out that those vanity metrics are pretty worthless. The only thing that matters is how have you delivered value to a patient through innovation.
And I appreciate that you've reiterated that several times, and certainly as we talk with a lot of doctors that talk about their reason for getting into the profession, it is to serve, it is to help people's lives, improve their quality of life by helping them, and what a way to help scale that than to be a part of the SoPE. What are some of the ways that people can learn more about the SoPE and to get involved?
Well, the easiest way is just go to the website, www.soapnet.org, and you go to the website and you join. And
okay.
It's going to cost $75 a year.
Okay.
And when you go on the site, you'll see the various chapters that are listed around the country. Now, we encourage people to start chapters where they do not presently exist. I mean, most of the major cities in the country, particularly those that have major bio clusters, we have chapters. But in a lot of places, like either small to medium-sized towns, there's actually a bigger appetite for it, and they're actually a lot more successful because there aren't so many people tripping over each other trying to do the same thing. Like places like Boston, San Francisco, San Diego, I mean, there's a gazillion innovation ecosystems and people, accelerators, generators, innovation centers. There's only so much you can do.
Right.
But in places that are what I would call flyover states or flyover areas, they're very engaged people that want to do this, but don't have the proper vehicle or platform to do it. So that's a good place to start.
Certainly.
So you join SoPE, you get involved in social media, you don't have a chapter in your area, and there's enough of a potential community of interest, you build one, you start holding meetings, you start connecting dots, and pretty soon stuff happens.
So if I was in a city that didn't have a chapter, I would go to SoPE.com.
Correct. And then one thing that we ask is that every chapter be led by a physician, because it is, after all, the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
But I would emphasize that anybody can join.
Okay.
We don't care what the letters are after your name, what your life experience is. All the glue that holds it all together is the desire to get an idea to a patient. And if you could be a patient, you could be a patient advocate, you could be anything. It doesn't make a difference. So if you are a physician and you are interested in starting a chapter, you join and you send me an email, and then we start the process. We've been doing this for a while now, and we sort of have it templated. So we try to take as much of the brain damage away as possible to do
Fair
it.
enough.
And all we ask is someone who is engaged and who will stick with it, build the community of interest, organize local meetings, and that's that.
Fair enough. Well, that sounds easy enough. I appreciate that. I wanted to thank you again for making some time to visit with us and to help us become more enlightened on your mission, your why. What a great organization. I gather a lot of people listening today will contact you and at least understand how they can scale their influence.
Well, I hope so. I appreciate the opportunity to spread the word, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about it.
Last question. Do you just on kind of the vein of advice, is there any advice you'd give to any starting physicians who kind of have this desire to be an entrepreneur, but maybe are a little short-sighted in that vision?
I give two pieces of advice. One is don't take advice, and the second is don't point the finger, jerk the thumb. And by that I mean that I've alluded to something called the innerpreneur.
Okay.
And basically, if you're going to do this, you have to be wired a certain way. I'm not saying that if you're not wired that way, you can't do it, but it's like this nurture-nature thing. I think most entrepreneurship derives from probably about, I just pick a number, 15% DNA,
Yep.
your genotype,
Yep.
and the rest comes from environmental factors, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So what I'd say is that you really kind of have to look inside first and say to yourself, is this something I really want to do? Because 99 times out of 100, you're going to fail. That's just the nature of biomedical entrepreneurship. It's an extremely high-risk venture. So do you really want to do this? Do you have a risk appetite or profile? What are your blind spots? Now you kind of look inside. And if you want to awaken your innerpreneur, then that translates into an entrepreneurial mindset, which translates into execution. So it starts inside. And if you're an employee, you have another set of issues, which is now you need a culture that will allow you to thrive if you're not self-employed. So that's a whole other story, but there are significant barriers to entrepreneurship, trying to act like an entrepreneur within an organization as an employee.
Okay.
It's a whole different story. But so you have to have the right match.
Perfect.
And you know, so if you want to do it, but nobody's going to let you do it, then my advice is quit and find a place that'll let you do it.
Right. Well, in perhaps another podcast episode where we can bring you back in, maybe we can unpack more of the details. Arlen, thanks again so much for being on the show today, and we look forward to connecting again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks a lot.
All right, Arlen. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.